Hello there, Servum17 once again. This is my Kingdom Hearts 2 Critical Mode walkthrough. We're back in Hollow Bastion, taking on some Heartless. We're going to be going to the Olympus Coliseum though, so this is just stopping in for probably storyline reasons. The biggest problem with a walkthrough such as this, where I'm trimming out cutscenes, I'm trimming out exposition, is stuff like that's going to happen. I've just gone from outside Hollow Bastion to inside the 101 acres. Oh, sorry, 100 acre wood. There's wonderful 101 on the brain there. And it looks a little jarring, because you're like, how the hell have I got here? What is this? Somebody who's never played the game is probably really confused at this point. Like, where did this forest with the Winnie the Pooh come from? But all of that was done in cutscene, and the transitions are quite staggering with the way they're used in this game. And there's going to be moments where I'm bouncing all over the place. And it doesn't mean that I've cut out the motion of me going there, it just means the game has took you there, and it's one of those more interesting facets of this game. Happens a lot too. A lot of the exposition, a lot of the pathfinding, a lot of the signs on where you're supposed to go are all delivered to you in the cutscene. It's one of those games where when the characters talk about what we're going to do next, they're literally talking about what you have to do next. And I know it sounds like this novel thing, but games aren't like that anymore. Games are always, you know, we need to get to the med bay, we need to get to hydroponics. And that doesn't mean anything to anybody, because you've got to go through 9 different air vents and a million fucking hangars before you even get to the elevator that then eventually goes to the basement, which leads to the tower, that leads to the forest, that then leads to the lab that has hydroponics in it. Because games just, you know, are arbitrarily designed more around their plots than they are the other way around. Ooh, that's an enemy I need to talk about too, the little grabby bastard. You want to kill those as quick as you can because they're an absolute nightmare. This is a tricky mission, this one, as far as the gummies go, because you can die very fast. But I've got lock-on on this ship, which makes it a lot more interesting. Like, I love this. I wish there was more to it. This type of game, procedurally generated and not looking like shitty Lego, would be a dream game for me, inside of a game. Like, when I finally make my Fist of the North Star themed, you know, RPG open world-esque third-person action game, I'm going to have something like this to traverse. There's going to be some kind of shmup mechanic in it that has bullet hell elements, which can be procedurally generated and help you get either synthesis items or equipment or accessories or just items in general. I don't know how I'd make it work, but I would make it fucking work. Because it's too good not to be. It's just too good. Like, I always think about an RPG that does what Tri-Ace did with Star Ocean, because the thing I love about Star Ocean is it's an RPG for all intents and purposes, and then you touch an enemy and it throws you into a live action combat game, and the combat is very RPG and dice roll heavy. Now imagine if there was all the, you know, the behind the scenes stuff of the statistics, of the equipment, of the weapons, of the items and all that RPG stuff, or the ability to pause, with the combat of a Devil May Cry. Or like a Bayonetta or whatever example. Insert your favourite action game here, in that instance. So all the mechanics that possibly wouldn't work in these large-scale environments, because high frame rate and, you know, good camera work and all that kind of stuff can be tricky when you're going through crazy, massive, ambitious level design, which you don't really see in these action games because they're environments for fighting, that's what they are. But if you isolated them in an instance like that, where you had to go to them via a random battle or however you governed it, then you wouldn't be restricted to generating these massive worlds where the combat was taking place, and you could control it and you could make sure that it's all fucking awesome. But yeah, that's my dream game at this moment in time. Like, what Fallout did for first-person shooters, but with third-person action game level quality of combat, which is so deep and rewarding and amazing. Like, God Hand-esque depth to the combat and the combo system, an awesome parry technique in an RPG with towns and world map traversal and side quests and secret bosses and secret dungeons and fucking random shmup interludes that you can choose to do, and a card game. You know, let's go whole hog. If this is a fantasy game, let's have everything in it. God, it'd be so fun. But that's the end of that one. We're now going to be progressing to Olympus Coliseum. There it is, battle level 16, which is a big jump from some of the earlier ones. You'll notice here that the drive bar has been chained. We're in the underworld, we can't use drive. Talk to Meg, then proceed on into the underworld. So the underworld's the first place that I died. And I mean really died, I don't mean, you know, I got one shot and didn't realise why. But it wasn't on this visit. This visit wasn't too bad at all. The second visit coming here, there's these ghosts with candles that do crazy magic spells, and they seem to counterpunch you, little bastards. And they killed me about 4 times, and up to this point, I'd not really been dying more than once. I would literally die to... I had full life and then I was dead. That was weird. But when I came back here the second time, this place really upped the difficulty as far as the mobs. But on this visit, I didn't have any trouble, and I was looking on the forums for this game after I'd recorded my guide. A lot of people were mentioning the Hades escape as being a really tough part on Critical, and I can't even remember that part. It's just goes to show how much trouble I didn't have, and it's not because I'm some elite level Kingdom Hearts player, because as you can see I've forgotten most of what I used to know. But yeah, a lot of people were mentioning it as being really tricky, and I assume it's when Hades chases you out of Hades and Auron's with you. But I didn't die there, so I couldn't understand it. And then on the other side, you have people commenting saying Critical Mode's a piece of cake, so not really much of a consensus. But I do think, if you've never fought Roxas before, that guy's going to give you a lot of trouble, because he's such a jump in boss difficulty. He reminds me of Vanitas from Birth by Sleep, because the bosses in Birth by Sleep are the most fun in Kingdom Hearts for combat, I think, because none of them have what I would call as too much of the unavoidable bullshit that the ones in the first 2 did. Like, the bosses on this have really good reaction commands, there's a really good sense of scale, they're pretty epic, and for the most they're fun, but every so often there's one where you're like, come on dude, did you really have to be this bullshitty or have this cheesy thing? You know, when they start spamming an invulnerability move where they do massive damage and you can't hurt them type of shit. Like Roxas! But in Birth by Sleep you don't get so much of that, except for when you fight people like Vanitas, who is essentially the Roxas of that game, because he does the exact same kind of bullshit where you can't finish combos on him because he disappears, and he does all that kind of stuff, and he does massive damage too. So when you beat him, chances are you'll probably no damage him, because if you get hit, you might as well restart, because he's an arsehole like that. But once again, I mentioned previously in this walkthrough that I'm having problems with the guard on that game, where I'm not doing anything, I'm not inputting anything, and I'm pressing guard and I'm not getting it, and it's either input dropping or it's the game's recovery is so long I can't get it, and it's only turning up every so often, because for the most on that game you can spam evade and it's so powerful, but I don't want to do that. I want to block, because when I play as Terra, that's how I fight, and I like Terra, he's my favourite guy in that game. Because he was the first person I played in Birth by Sleep, and all I did once I got that counter attack is every combo was counterpunched. I would wait for them to do something, I'd counterpunch them, and I'd combo them, and that's how I fought. And it's a really fun way for me to play. And Aqua, I feel like you're supposed to use her magic, so instead of being counterpunchy, I'm trying to be more magic orientated and a bit more ranged. And of course, I don't really like playing that way. You barely see me use magic in this. But I embraced it with her because it's what she does. This is me getting a little confused. One thing would be nice on the future Kingdom Hearts, I don't know if they have it, is if they gave you a little icon on the minimap to show you which entrance you came in. Because especially when the level design is this cookie cutter and identical, it can be really tough to remember what direction you're going in, because you're always getting turned around during combat. But I should have spoke about those lance creatures, the lance enemy. That is an enemy that sucks. If it does the spinning move and you haven't seen it, you can't interrupt it. The only way to stop it is to guard or get away. And if you guard, sometimes it lasts long enough that it hits you at the end of it. So that is one of those moves where you need to kill it before it does it, or witness it, spot it, and get out. Because it's incredibly dangerous. Like, he's running to poke me there, you can always see that because they do that little dad jog at a wedding. He's just done the spin attack and he was dizzy afterwards. They also do a flying attack which you can reaction command. But that move just then, look at Donald, never stood a chance. Anal tears. Poor kid. But Olympus Coliseum is one of those strange places where I kind of like the underworld aspect of it, because I did the Coliseum to death in the first game, but there's not much to it, you know, you're just kind of moving through a very linear area, and all this level really represents to me is his name Demix? I think his name is the Organization 13 guy who does the water clones. But here is Hades. And this is not technically a boss because you can't hurt him, because you can't hurt Hades in the underworld. You know, it makes a lot of sense. I do like that smoke effect though, it's got that Disney quality to it, and James Wood, I am so happy he loves playing Hades as much as he does, because you just can't imagine this character without his tones. He does such a good job here. Like, he does a good job every time he does him. Like, it's the perfect character for James Wood. Or James Woods. But I believe this is the part what people have trouble with. You have to do a fight on each of these sections. You have to kill the enemies, but of course you can't kill Hades, and Hades is going to be attacking you. So the way that I generally do this is I alternate using the limit command as Auron. It kills people really quickly, and it gives you full immunity while you're doing it, so you don't have to worry. And how these limits work, or how it seems they work, is both Sora and the person that you joint with have two different attacks. Sora attacks with where the attack command is, the other person attacks with triangle. You have a bar at the top, which is draining pretty much constantly, and each time you do the attacks, it progresses towards doing other attacks, and eventually there'll be a final attack. And depending on how you press it, how fast you press it, and how you choose to use it, will depend on how quickly you get to those attacks. And I've got to be honest here, folks, I don't know the most effective way to use the limits. I just know the ways that I've used them, which is I alternate between X and triangle to try and get the most out of the different ones. And if I'm not close to the enemy to get the ender, I'll watch the bar, I'll close my distance, and then at the last moment, I'll use the final attack. Sometimes it works really well, other times it doesn't really work at all. You're going to see me miss the fair share of limits in this game. But that right there as well, when we did a limit, did that fully heal me, or did somebody heal me? I couldn't quite tell if Donald healed me or if the limit healed me, but use it intelligently, get those iframes, and this section will be over before it's really begun. He's going to do a spike. See, right there, I knew it was coming, I was backing up for it, I went to guard, and it had such a long wind-up, I got hit anyway. My main reason I don't like the guard, it's not instant, it's not immediate. And there's a lot of people who think that not having an instant guard is more skillful, and I think it's just preference. Because at the end of the day, it requires good timing regardless, it's just different types of timing. And you either prefer, what the hell was that? Prefer? Sound like a cat. You either prefer one timing or you prefer the other, you know. It's the Dark Souls 1 versus Dark Souls 2 thing. And everybody says the same thing normally. Oh, well, parrying in Dark Souls was easy as piss, no wonder they changed it. It's like, well, it weren't technically. Certain things definitely were, but other things not so much. And when you bear in mind the timing was almost identical to Demon Souls, it's just Demon Souls is a faster game, so it seems a little bit different. That's like saying parrying in Demon Souls is easy, and it's not. Parrying in Demon Souls is spot on. It's tough to do, but it's worth it. Parrying in Dark Souls is bullshit, is what it is. It's boring, it's the same fucking animation every single time, and now it's not even worthwhile now they patched the criticals. And we all know why they did that. It's because everybody was running around with backup daggers to one-shot people, and everybody bitched on Reddit. Which is an interesting aspect of games nowadays, and don't get me wrong, I have my grievances, I share my critiques and my complaints on these videos about mechanics, and I think it's great that we're able to do so, and we're able to share in a community of people who are sharing opinions and different, you know, perspectives on it. It's just, when you're bitching to the extent that the developer of the game is changing the game because of it, when it's not even something that is that bad, when there are legitimately bad parts of your game they could be fixing, yet the community is steering them away from the actual problems and moving them towards these delusional problems that they've made up because they're playing it under these own regulations. I think that's where you have a problem. But that's just how games are now. And I wonder who we blame for that. Who do we blame? Is it the people bitching? Or is it the companies that are giving in to the bitching? I don't know. And I'm using bitching here not as a derogatory sense, even though it has a very negative connotation on the internet. I just mean people who are saying things that they think doesn't work. Like, can you imagine if they patched the Bed of Chaos so that he didn't have that ridiculous sweepy bullshit range that knocks you in regardless of whether or not his hands or his arms touch you? Sometimes you just get swept in anyway, like off a backstroke. Can you imagine if they patched him? That'd be awesome. But they never did. Instead, they fixed everything else. Like, I'm trying to think of stuff that's annoying. Like, King of Lance banana move. Or Ornstein and Small, where they do banana moves, where they hit through each other. Where the enemies hit through the fucking geometry and you bounce off it. Can you imagine if they changed that so that it was fair? Like, what a world that would be. But instead, you know, Wrath of God now does no damage. Neither does Forbidden Sun. I just find it funny. Everybody's asking me about my thoughts on the next gen version. It's like, it's still Dark Souls 2 at the end of the day, guys. Unless they change mechanics, unless they get rid of soul memory, it's still going to be the same game that nobody wants to play. Like, if the one on Next Generation had been directed by Miyazaki, and the movement, the parries, the rolls, everything was like it was in Dark Souls 1, with the improvements of Dark Souls 2, which is to say omnidirectional rolls and nothing else, then I would be like, this could be the best game ever made. You know, poise works again. Everything else works again. But it's not what it is. So, how can we get excited about a game that I've spent the last year gradually going off? I can't. I want to be surprised and I'm going to play it. It could be amazing. It could win me over again and that'll be really cool. I just, at this moment in time, the last thing on my mind is Dark Souls 2. Because I'm playing Kingdom Hearts and Kingdom Hearts is a better game. And I would put that forward as fact, even though it isn't, because I think it's funny when you do that, because it gets a lot of people who disagree very angry. But thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope the guide is helping, and if not, I hope you're just enjoying the nostalgia that comes with a title such as this. But you take care now.